Everyone thinks America's power comes from its weapons, the jets, the ships, the drones. But what if I told you none of that is the real reason the United States dominates the modern battlefield? Because the truth is far stranger. America's greatest strength is something most people never see, never talk about, and would never guess. It's the one thing that turns ordinary weapons into unstoppable tools. And without it, the US military would collapse in days. This video isn't about firepower. It's about the invisible engine that makes America the most capable fighting force in human history. The kind of power no enemy can copy, no machine can replace, and no headline ever explains. Let's open the curtain. When you look at the US military from the outside, you see the hardware first. You see the F-22 slicing the sky like a ghost. You see the aircraft carriers, floating cities that move with unstoppable calm. You see the night vision green glow of soldiers advancing in silence. You see the missiles, the drones, the satellites. But what you don't see, what almost nobody sees, is the system behind all of it. A system so vast, so complex, and so perfectly synchronized that even America's rivals don't fully understand how it works. Because a weapon is just metal. A jet is just an empty shell. A missile is just a tube filled with fuel. What matters is the structure, the brain, the coordination that makes all of it come alive. That structure begins with the first pillar of American power: reach. Most militaries operate close to home. They fight on familiar ground. Their supply lines are short, their missions limited, their influence regional. The United States is different. It can project power to any continent, any ocean, any environment. Not in weeks, but in hours. Why? Because behind every soldier and every jet is an unmatched supply network. Fuel flowing from bases you've never heard of. Cargo aircraft landing in the dark on runways built decades earlier. Ships delivering supplies across the world with the precision of clockwork. A web of infrastructure that connects thousands of points on the planet, moving constantly, quietly, relentlessly. A fighter jet is impressive, yes, but the ability to refuel it in the sky, mid-flight, thousands of miles from home, is the real miracle. That's not firepower. That's engineering, organization, and discipline, the invisible backbone of military power. The second pillar is something even more surprising: freedom to think. In many militaries, decisions flow from the top downward like cold instructions. Orders must be followed precisely instantly, without question. But the US military built its philosophy on something radical: the belief that the person closest to the problem often knows best. This idea is called mission command. A young sergeant standing in dust and chaos can make decisions that reshape an entire operation. Because American doctrine teaches soldiers not just to obey orders, but to understand the purpose behind them. It turns units into teams that can adapt instantly. It creates creativity on the battlefield. It rewards initiative, judgment, and courage. This is something no rival can copy simply by reading a manual, because it requires culture, it requires trust, it requires decades of training people to think, not just to act. A weapon can be stolen, a mindset cannot. The third pillar is training, not training as in shoot this or march here. Training as in shaping a human being who can make decisions under extreme stress, who can stay calm in chaos, who can work as part of a team without hesitation or confusion. American training pushes soldiers into simulations that feel real, psychologically real. They fail, they learn, they adapt. They're not just taught what to do, they're taught why. That difference creates a soldier who is more than a machine operator. It creates a strategist, a thinker, a leader. Weapons expand what a soldier can do, but training decides who the soldier becomes. Then comes another hidden force: alliances. The United States doesn't stand alone. It stands on top of a global network of friends, partners, and allies. From Europe to the Pacific, from the Middle East to Africa. These alliances aren't abstract political agreements. They mean real things on the battlefield. A radar in Norway feeding data to a submarine in the Atlantic, a base in Japan supporting aircraft that protect South Korea, a refueling tanker from a NATO partner helping American jets reach farther. This isn't just geography, it's global integration, a kind of military cooperation no rival nation can replicate. China may have territory, Russia may have weapons, but neither has anything even close to America's alliance system. And in war, alliances multiply strength in ways pure firepower can never match. But the most extraordinary pillar is one almost nobody ever thinks about: American innovation. The United States doesn't just use advanced technology, it invents it. It invents stealth. It invents modern GPS. It invents drones. It invents systems that rewire the battlefield and force every other nation to adapt. This innovation doesn't come from one place. It comes from a giant ecosystem: Silicon Valley, universities, defense labs, private companies, startups, scientists, and soldiers themselves. Ideas flow between these worlds, turning experiments into breakthroughs and breakthroughs into dominance. When an enemy copies an American idea, the U.S. is already working on the next one. That's not arrogance. That's momentum. Momentum built into the culture itself. And finally, we reach the core, the soul, the one thing that rises above everything else: the human being wearing the uniform. You can train a machine. You can program a drone. You can build the perfect missile. But you cannot manufacture the human qualities the U.S. military depends on: courage, responsibility, character, initiative, sacrifice. The American soldier is not defined by the rifle they carry, but by the decisions they make when the situation becomes unclear, when the plan collapses, when the moment demands more than strength. It demands judgment. Weapons matter, but the mind behind the weapon matters more. And that is the essence of American military power. The world sees the tools, the missiles, the jets, the ships, but the real force, the force that keeps America at the top, is the invisible structure behind those tools. The logistics that stretch across oceans, the philosophy that empowers soldiers to think, the training that sharpens judgment, the alliances that expand reach, the innovation that never stops, the human spirit that binds it all together. A weapon can be built in a factory. A system like this can only be built through time, trust, and culture. That is why America remains a superpower, not because of what it fires, but because of how it prepares, how it adapts, and how it thinks. And that is why the true power of the U.S. military has never been its weapons, but the invisible engine that makes those weapons matter.